Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences.
Teachers/counselors of Reddit, what's the worst case of helicopter parenting you've ever encountered? In Sweden we call those kind of parents curling parents. Because they sweep the ground before their kids. Told a lady at work about an interesting app that allows you to lock your child's phone anytime you want, and the only option it gives them is to call the preset parent's number. The lady who designed it was pissed because she would call or text her children and they wouldn't answer, so it allowed her to lock their phones until they called and checked in. My coworker immediately downloaded the app, and now if she calls or texts her kids and they don't respond within 2 minutes, she locks their phones. If her kids are on Reddit and see this, I would like to apologize. I just thought the article was interesting and was making small talk. I did not intend to ruin your teenage years. I'm neither of those things. But last year I was waiting in line at the airport. And behind me was a mother and teenage son. And she was describing the college essays she'd written for him because he'd been too busy for them going to a sporting event over the weekend. Yeah. I included all your extracurriculars in there. I think it was fair to say you were involved in music. I mean, you do like music. No, don't worry. I made it sound like you wrote it. When I was a student I would hear of parents accompanying their adult children to job interviews. No one will hire anyone who brings mommy or daddy with them. No one. Not a teacher, but I'm a nanny. I briefly worked for one mom who still wiped her 8-year-old son's ass after he took a speep. That poor kid would just sit on the toilet waiting for mom to come clean his poop hole. I didn't stick around that family for very long. Reading all of these makes me think of a good parenting tip. Have your kids make calls to places. Reservations. Ordering pizza. Anything where they talk to someone to get something done. It's amazing how some kids grow up to be adults who never learned how to get things done by themselves. Engineering student here. There was this guy in my class. The only son, child to rich parents. Overprotective mom. He always came in and sat on the first bench in the lectures. One day some kids occupied the first bench unknowingly and he was forced to sit on second bench. Gets his mom to college next day. Mom raises the roof and escalated this to the dean. This happened in the first year. Goes without saying the guy didn't have very peaceful next 3 years. His classmates and teachers ensured that. I fortunately have yet to experience any helicopter parents. But my dad saw a pretty good one when he was teaching 2nd grade. There was this one mom who was, I guess, what you could call a bit of a local celebrity in our small town. And she was a bit, success-driven and competitive at times. She was nice enough and was always volunteering to help out in the classroom. But during one of the class parties, she organized a game of musical chairs. Thing is, she tried to fix it so her daughter would win. She tried to be as discreet as she could. But it didn't exactly work out. My dad and the kids caught on pretty quick and the kids openly called her out on it. She tried to deny it. But everyone saw right through her. She cared so much about winning that she would rig a game of musical chairs for a group of 2nd graders. I've taught middle school through college. I had one parent of a high school student who said she could not come to a particular meeting time. Because she'd be in class. Oh. What degree are you studying for? None. I take the same classes as her other child so I can make sure she works hard. Apparently she was registering as a student in all of her child's classes. Going to the classes. All to make sure her child did her college work. I didn't say anything. But I would not have wanted to be that professor or the kid. I was an resident assistant for my university and we had some major helicopter parents during move-in day the last few years. It was either last year or the year before this guy's mom helped him move into his dorm room when it came time for the parents to leave and for the first floor meeting his mom hid in his bathroom. Then she tried to stay the night that night. Only reason she was caught was because the guy's roommate came to me and the other raw on the floor and told us he wasn't comfortable with her being there. She yelled at us when we asked her to leave and we had to call campus police to escort her out of the building. During transfer orientation, there was a girl in my section that her mother followed her everywhere. Even student-only events. I didn't have to deal with any parents when I taught undergrad, luckily. My uncle, on the other hand, is a professor at Georgia Tech and once had to terminate a doctoral student from the program for not following the dissertation timeline. After throwing a tantrum himself, the student called his mommy and she came in and ranted at my uncle until they had to be escorted out of his office. The joys of teaching adults. Waiting for posts about my parents who insist on being present for every phone call I make to a department at my college. When are we going to call study abroad? We? No. Go get a hobby and let me be an adult. My parents are exactly the same. When are we going to call about applying to medical school? We? Never. I'll do it on Monday though. I'm not a teacher. But I have a story that is relevant. When I was in high school, there was this kid's mom would sit in on all his classes to make sure he would do his homework. He didn't have any mental problems or anything. She wouldn't let him talk to anyone who didn't go to their church. She argued with the teacher every peeping day. In biology, she reported the teacher to the superintendent for teaching evolution. As you probably guessed, nobody hid their dislike of her. The best one was when I missed a test one day and had to stay after school to make it up. She burst into the room looking furious and started yelling at the teacher because he failed her son. The teacher just started going, she just got madder and madder. The teacher just kept ignoring her. At one point he took out his cell phone and called some people. The woman got really mad and stormed off. Not a teacher, but a former student. This guy in my neighborhood had an older daughter that he caught having sex in high school. She used protection and all the right things, but he just couldn't stomach the idea of his daughter having sex. His younger daughter was my age, and when we made it to the age of teenagers, he literally would not let her go anywhere without him. Like he was paranoid to the extreme about her having sex. She had to go to her aunt's house right after school to make sure she didn't do any peeping in the 30 minutes between when she got out of class and her father got home. She had to sit by her father at high school sporting events. If she wanted to get something from the concession stands, she had to basically run there and back because he would come looking for her after she was gone for longer than 5 minutes. I have no idea how she wasn't depressed because she had zero social life because of this. She got a job and moved out shortly after graduation. Within a few years, she had 3 babies from 3 different men. So I guess she got the last laugh. Knew a girl in elementary school who would give any project or assignment to her mom for her to complete. Every day her mom would come to drop off her lunch, which was odd enough. And the girl would just drop off any books or assignments that needed to be finished. The next day they would come back with perfect completed projects and assignments. Needless to say, the teachers loved her. But all the kids knew the truth. And to the best of my knowledge, this still goes on today. This girl will fail miserably at life. My friend and I were both teaching intro psych when she told me this story. Her student missed an exam. Since she dropped the lowest exam, she had a no makeup policy unless you were able to prove you were ill or at a required school function such as a sporting event if you were on the team. The student just forgot and mentioned it to her mom. Her mom called the chair, the dean, and the president of the university demanding my friend be fired. Although her policy was within university guidelines, they made her offer the student a makeup. After making up a brand new exam as well as new versions of all exams, since it wasn't fair to let only one make up an exam, the student never showed. I worked as an insurance adjuster for a while. Homeowner's mom called in. I explained we can't talk to her about the claim unless we get her son's permission. She freaked out and started yelling. How can you expect him to handle this? He's only 24. The kicker? I was 23 at the time. Had a student who should have classified spec ed. Yet his parents didn't want that stigma for him. He did receive every service the school offered, but wasn't classified. Due to all of the services he received, he was out of the room for about 75% of the day. The parents wanted a meeting and actually asked me to fill in his workbook for him while he was out of the room, pack and unpack his backpack every day, and not assign him homework so he could just be a kid when he got home. The meeting became physical between the father and I while the mother just sat and cried. After I refused all of their demands, their solution was to run for school board to try and get me fired. The mom actually won a seat, but nothing more came of it. Assholes. I might be a little late to this, but I went to school with a girl whose mother would drive to the school and wait for her all day. I mean, sit in her car the whole time we were in class. During lunch break she would drive to where she could see her and sit and watch her outside. This was in high school. Once I went to get after school help and the girl was there and her mother brought her little brother into the class too, and they just sat at the back of the room and didn't say anything and watched the whole time the girl was getting homework help. I kinda felt bad for her. She seemed like she really wanted to break out of her shell more, but I don't think she felt like she could. I used to work for CUNY City University of New York at one of the senior colleges. You would think that at college, helicopter parenting wouldn't be a thing. But you're so wrong. So wrong. By FERPA Federal Education Records and Privacy Act rules, teachers can only discuss grades with the student in question at least once per semester. At the end, I would have a parent calling or coming to the campus wanting to discuss why their special snowflake, usually freshman students, bombed a class. They could not wrap their heads around the privacy ruling that barred them from inquiring about their kids' grades. On more than one occasion, I was even asked why a letter wasn't sent home about their progress. One particular case ended up with a man yelling that he paid my salary since he paid his kids' tuition. He had the right to know. He got so ragey that campus security had to be called to escort him off campus. Fellow teachers are sometimes the worst helicopter parents. I had one last year. His son was a good kid and a B student because he forgot to hand a lot of assignments in on time. Every single marking period and progress report, I would get bombarded by emails from the father, a teacher in the same district, about why his son is doing so poorly in class. Seriously. He had a B. How do I grade assignments? Etc. The first couple emails in the beginning of the year, he would try to bully his son's other teachers and me into raising his grades. Eventually he cooled off once every teacher kept responding about his son's inability to hand assignments in on time. But he was always hovering. Thankfully, they were only emails he sent. My mother went to my older brother's first week of elementary school every day and stayed there until he left before the school told her to stop. Then when he went to high school, my dad, brothers, and I had to convince her not to do the same. I work as an RA, we're called community assistants. But we're basically RAs, and I was doing a front desk shift one evening when the mother of one of our residents called. She was very upset and started complaining and saying that we needed to have maintenance come out and fix the dishwasher of her son. We have a work order system, so it's not a problem. But I told her that I couldn't grant permission to our maintenance staff to enter the apartment unless the leaseholder, her son, gave us permission. She said okay. Here he is, and handed her son the phone. He was sitting with her the entire time. He quietly mumbled into the phone, "Yeah, they have permission to enter," and handed the phone back to his mom. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Click the right box for the Radio TTS playlist and let us know what the next video should be about.